My name is Alex GSP Murphy, and I designed the game Primeval Clash, coming to Kickstarter soon via Nerd Palace Games. And there have been a lot of people who've asked questions about this game and how it works, because what we're doing is pretty different. And there's so much stuff going on. We don't have all the art assets yet. We don't have all of the miniatures and hand painted. So I can't do the how to play video. But there have been so many people asking questions about how this works. So here's a short, basic video. Don't share it with anyone, but it's like, for people who've been like asking questions, like this is the basics of how it works and why it's different from everything else. So the first thing is, in most miniature games, whenever you create your army, you have 100 points, 1,000 points, whatever, and you just buy all of those points that you want. You spend them all, and then you just run those two armies at each other back and forth, and in theory it's a completely balanced and fair fight, which is never how it really works out. One of the biggest challenges is the fact that it doesn't give any defense bonus for people who are defending, which generally you need a lot more attackers to counteract that. And also, the units will end up with this morale situation where there was like 20 guys, and now there's only 2 left, and they're still fighting, just keep on going, same as before. And that never really made sense to me. That's just not how normally it works. So in this game, we do something a little bit different. Whenever you play a game, and right now the starter games are going to be, starter boxes, are going to have 12-point armies inside. And so far in each one, there is a 4-point, henceforth a 4-cost unit, a 3-cost unit, and a 2-cost unit. So that means there are 9 points. So whenever you play the game, you start off with 12 points, and that is your morale pool. And we might be changing that name, that's what we're calling it right now, it's a morale pool. And so if you use all 3 of those, that means you're using 9 points. So you've got 3 morale left. So what that means is, throughout the game, you don't lose until you're out of morale. So if you build with a smaller army, you will have more morale. So that means you'll be staying around longer individually. So that's how the army points work. So you can actually use the same starter armies in a 20-point game. They're just going to be, they're going to have a lot higher morale. They're going to be able to fight a lot longer. The other major thing which is different in this game is, instead of rolling to see if you succeed at things, instead you roll to see what you do that you succeed in. In a lot of games, you'll end up with situations, and this happened to me in so many games, where I had an army of awesome guys, and they would open fire, and they would roll 1s and 2s. Henceforth, my awesome marksman shooting at somebody, not moving, 5 feet away, didn't hit. Everything went wild. Or, in the same situation, sometimes I would actually hit, and then, like, okay, does it wound? Nope, they rolled too well. So, again, my lasers, which shot them, didn't do anything. Or my knights would charge in, and they'd roll a 1, and so nothing would happen. And there were a lot of times that it didn't really make any sense at all. So in this game, we don't actually roll to see we don't roll to see if we succeed. We roll to see what we succeed at, which is a very different and highly unusual concept in miniature gaming. So what happens is, whenever you look at the unit card, it shows you, this is where you start off with, so you roll 4 dice. As you take wounds, you'll roll less and less dice. Whenever we get down to the bottom one, we'll explain a little bit differently about that. So whenever this unit activates, in this case, the Flame Fin, he rolls 4 dice. So you roll to see what you get. So notice, number 1 is a boost. 2s and 3s are the move section. 4s and 5 are combat. And 6 is the special category. Again, we don't actually have the final version yet, and also the printer that I had on top of my head was wow. The printer that I had access to does not have color right now. So, in this situation, you would be able to fight once, move twice, and boost. Boost, what that one does is, you actually spend it first, it increases one of the numbers inside of the box. So you can increase the move. So now it would go from a speed 3 to a speed 4. which would actually be incredibly useful right now, but you've already got 2 moves, so you might not actually need that. You could boost up the offense, its defense, or one of its special abilities. Special abilities are triggered on a 6, so it doesn't really make much sense to do that right now. One thing that we can do is, and this is every single unit can always do this, if you want, you can pick up 2 dice that you don't want and trade it in for one that you do. So if you needed to, you could say, I'm going to move, attack, and whenever I do, I'm going to have armor piercing. I don't know how well you can read it, but that says armor piercing of 2. So that lowers the opponent's defense. Normally how combat works is you compare for each attack your offense to the person you're engaged with's defense. And this also works for ranged combat as well, but they'll normally be separate numbers. This is normally the melee range. And melee, unless it marks otherwise, is 1 inch. So if you look at these miniatures, we have to say, before we assign all these dice, we have to say, all right, do you want these dice, or do you want to trade 2 in for something else? So we look at it and we're like, well, he's about 4.5 inches in, so it might be worthwhile to do the move and then attack, in which case we can boost up his offense, so that way it's a 3, make sure it's going to go over his defense, and we'll know because his card will be on the table, and you can always see what your opponent has. So then you move 3 inches, and that uses 1 die. And then you move 3 inches, and that uses the other die. You're within 1 inch now, so henceforth you can make an attack, spin the attack die, and it's at a strength of 3 because you boosted it up. So that's going to do a wound. So we would then look at the the Elder Sword Cat's stat card, and we would mark off 1 health point. That's how the actions work in this game. Some of them, and you'll notice blind, actually requires 2 specials. However, it is actually pretty powerful. So in our previous roll, if we want, we could pick up these 2 dice and turn 1 into a 6. Then pick up those 2 dice and turn them into a 6. So instead, we could have actually stayed back here, 5 inches away or so, and blinded him. So long as his willpower, which blind targets the willpower, so long as it's 3, his willpower is 3 or less, that is successful, he is now blinded, and we would mark him with a blinded token. And that token will mean that he is moved slower and he misses his first attack regardless. So that is the basics of how things work. Now let's say that instead we were going to keep those, and what I had said earlier about moving up, and attacking, that'll do 1 point of damage. That means that it'll be less effective next turn. The Elder Sword Cat will be less effective next turn. When you deal enough damage that you would mark in the final health box, that means that the person controlling that one that is now injured has to make a choice. He does one of 2 things. Either he removes that unit off the board, so in this case, if that were the last box that the Sword Cat had, you'd pick him up and take him off the board, and you would lose 1 of your morale pool. Or you could leave him on the board and instead lose the second part of the morale cost. The first one is what it takes to bring him into the army. The second one is how much it costs to keep him if he would lose his morale and break. Now, you might be saying, well, it's only 1 to keep him on the board. Why wouldn't you just want to leave him on the board all the time? Well, if he were surrounded and he was going to get attacked 3 more times next turn, you're assuming, you might want to have him be removed so that way you don't lose 3 more points. Because every time you take damage and you're on your last point, you would lose morale every single time. So that's why you don't want to leave him on the board sometimes. So because of that, you can actually have an army of really powerful people who are outnumbered, and it still works out as a very balanced fight. But if you end up with 1 unit completely surrounded, you can get shredded really badly. And what happens is, whenever your last morale point is taken away, that is whenever you lose the game. So, in a standard scenario where it's just 1-on-1, whenever you lose damage, your final hit point, that's whenever you lose morale. However, there are some scenarios where you actually are on a countdown timer, and so every turn you lose morale. So you have to push forward. And that actually gives us the ability to have a lot of different scenarios, which are very different. And you can actually have asymmetrical scenarios where the attacker and the defender are not balanced because there's a countdown clock for one. And so it puts the priority on the other one to make sure that they win quickly. So again, that is the basics of the game. I hope you guys like it. Let me know. My email is alex@nerdpalacegames.com. But, this is not the how to play, so don't tell anyone about this. But this is just the basics, so that way it should hopefully answer some of the questions you guys have had. So, thank you very much.